Hey everyone, today we are going to add integers using a number line. If you have your lesson worksheet, take that out so you have it in front of you when you're ready to go. And if not, grab a sheet of paper and a pencil so you can follow along and copy down some examples as we go through them. All right, here's the problem. We are going to add these integers together. We've got 4 problems up at the top. And we're going to go through these examples today using a number line because a number line is a really good way to visualize the problem. It's another strategy that you can use. And I think that by moving back and forth on the number line, it will help you to understand the rules of integers more and make sense of it. Okay, so the first step is you're going to draw a number line, right? So I've got a number line on there for us to use. And step 2 is you are going to start on the first integer. So if we start with our first example, which is -6 plus +6. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a point at -6. So right here on my number line, -6. And then step 3 is we're going to move the number of places indicated by the second integer. Now this is important, right? I'm going to underline this in red. We are going to move to the right if it's a positive number, and we're going to move to the left if it's a negative number. So wherever we start, we're just going to be moving to the right or to the left depending on what kind of number it is. So I'm adding a +6 to this -6. +6 means that I'm going to be moving to the right. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to end up right here at 0. So we would say that +6 plus -6 equals 0. Okay, then we're going to do another example. So I'm going to erase this. And our next example is going to be -5 plus -3. So I'm going to put my first point here at -5, right there. And then my second number is telling me that I need to move 3 to the left, right? Because this is a negative number right here. So I'm starting at -5 and I'm going to go 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. So we end up right here and we would say that that answer is -8. Okay, moving on to our next example. Let me erase that. Moving on to our next example, we've got a +7 plus a -4. So I'm going to put my starting point on my first integer, which is over here at +7. Now I'm adding a -4 to it. So that means we're going to be moving to the left. So from this +7, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, and we end up right here at +3. And then finally, for our last example, we've got +8 plus -10. So I'm going to put my first point at +8, and we are moving to the left, right? Because it's a negative number. So from here, I'm going to go 10 to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I end up right here at -2. So you can see how a number line just really helps you to see where you're starting and where you're going, and hopefully it helps you to understand those rules a little bit better. So the rules, remember, when we are adding integers, if we have the same sign, right? So let's look at our example right here where we had the same sign. We had -5 plus -3. When I had the same sign, I had a 5 and a 3, and I ended up with an 8. So I just added my numbers together, right? So we're going to add the numbers. And then as far as the sign is concerned, whatever the signs are, you just keep them. If I'm adding a -5 plus a -3 together, I end up with a -8, right? I just add the numbers and I keep the sign. So if we're adding 2 positives together, we're going to get a positive. And if we're adding 2 negatives together, we're going to get a negative. Now, with different signs, right? Our last 2 examples had different signs. We had a +7 and a -4, and then we had a positive 8 and a negative 10. We had different signs. In both cases, we subtracted the numbers, right? I didn't add 7 plus 4 and get 11. I subtracted them, right? Because 7 minus 4 is 3. And same thing over here. I didn't add 8 plus 10, because if I did, I would have had 18, right? But I ended up with a 2. So I subtracted those numbers. I did 10 minus 8. So our different sign rule is that we are going to subtract the numbers, right? That's going to be our first step, is to subtract the numbers. And then as far as which sign we used, we kept the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So if I have a 7 and I have a 4, 7's a bigger number than 4. And since 7 was positive, my answer turned out to be a positive 3. In the last example, I have an 8 and a 10. Well, 10 is a bigger number, right? 10 has a larger absolute value. And since the 10 was negative, I ended up with a negative 2. So after you subtract the numbers, you keep the sign, right? You keep the sign of the bigger number, right? Or the number that has the larger absolute value. So I'm going to write down the bigger number, but I know you understand that that means it's really the number with the larger absolute value or the larger magnitude. All right, so let's look at some more problems. And for these problems, you're going to be adding these positive and negative numbers together, just like we did with the 4 examples. And if you want to use the rules, you can use the rules. And if you would rather draw a number line and use a number line, move back and forth like we did, you can do that. Whatever makes sense to you is what works for me. So stop the video right now and do these 9 problems, and then hit start again, and we will go through the answers. All right, hopefully you guys were able to solve all of these problems. So here are the answers. If I am adding a negative 5 plus a negative 7, right? Negative 5 means I'm starting on my number line at negative 5, and I am moving 7 places to the left, right? I'm getting farther away from 0. So my answer will be negative 12. If we're using the rules, remember 2 negatives, right? They're the same sign. Add the numbers, keep the sign. For number 2, I would be starting on my number line at positive 11 and moving 2 to the left. If I do that, I'm going to end up at positive 9. If I use my rules, I would say these 2 integers have different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. 11 minus 2 is 9. Since 11 has a larger absolute value than 2 does, right? 11 was the bigger number and it was positive, my answer ends up to be positive. For number 3, we've got a positive 7 and a negative 12. If I start at 7 on my number line and I move 12 places to the left, I'm going to be passing 0 and going 5 more places to the left, and I'm going to end up right at negative 5. If we use our rules, we're going to say that 12 minus 7 is 5, and since 12 has a larger absolute value, our answer is going to be negative, right? Because 12 was a negative number. Again, number 4, different signs again. We're going to subtract them. 15 minus 4 is 11. Since 15 is a larger number than 4, has a larger absolute value, and it was positive, our answer will be positive. Number 5, a lot of people get this wrong. If I'm adding 2 negative 6's together, we've got 2 numbers with the same sign. So we add them, which is 12, and we keep the sign. If I was on a number line starting at negative 6, I'd be moving 6 more to the left. It would put me even farther away from 0, and I would end up at negative 12. For number 6, different signs. Negative 20 plus positive 7, I'm going to subtract and get 13. My bigger number is the 20. 20 is negative, so my answer will end up being negative 13. Okay, these last 3, we had more than 2 numbers we were adding, but that's okay. We can just go from left to right. If I do a negative 2 plus a positive 6, that gives me a positive 4 so far. And then I'm going to add a negative 4 to that. Well, a positive 4 plus a negative 4, that just means it cancels, right? 0. If I've got $4 and I give you $4, I've got no dollars. So 0. For number 8, from left to right, let's do positive 8 plus negative 9. That's negative 1 so far because we subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Then I'm going to add 13. I'm going to follow that same rule again. I'm going to subtract and get 12, keep the sign of the bigger number. 13 has a larger absolute value than 1, and it's positive, so my answer is positive 12. Number 9. We can go straight across on this, or maybe we want to add all of our negatives together first. There's lots of different ways that we can solve number 9, right? So if we just go straight across from left to right, I would say that negative 9 plus positive 6 is negative 13. And then I would add my negative 1 to that, and I would add my negative 5 to that. From here, I just have a big bunch of negatives, right? I'm adding 3 negative numbers together, so we're just going to add them and keep the sign. 13 plus 1 is 14, and 14 plus 5 is 19, and they're all negatives, so we keep the sign. Okay, so hopefully this helped you to understand how to add positive and negative numbers using a number line and then also using those rules. If you are confused about it and you feel like you need to look at it one more time, just watch the video again, or you can always ask your teacher for help. You can ask a friend for help. But really just ask for help if you don't understand, because adding positive and negative numbers is so important as you move through your schooling and algebra and beyond. So that's all for this lesson, and I will see you next time.